and anything happens just with a snap. You see a little, like, look right there. Can you see it or no? No. I can't touch it. It's your fucking money. Touch it, bro.
Yo, that's crazy.
I'm gonna show you how to print money. Look, watch. 1, 2, 3, like that. Can you see that? I know it doesn't look. Guess the numbers. Guess a random number.
A random number? No. What's open? 4, 3, 8. 1, 3.
1 or 3?
3.
No.
It's 1.
That's you just guessing. I don't guess. I said I hear it. Close your eyes for a second. Close your eyes. Open your eyes.
Open your eyes.
These numbers are gonna come to your head right now. Say the 4 numbers that come to your head right now. Go.
6, 5, 3, 2.
A mentalist, and you read celebrities' minds. You'll never guess this name.
Somebody screen record this. He just said I never would guess this.
Come on with your little tricks.
I like the challenge. I like the challenge. Matter of fact, just because I know what you're gonna say, oh, maybe he wrote. I'll leave it here.
Yeah. I don't really want you to touch that thing again.
I ain't gonna touch it. I'm gonna sit right here with you. I can't touch it. It's in full view. Say it.
Bartholomew.
I only wrote a little bit of the name because I don't know how to spell Bartholomew, to be completely honest with you. Look, one name inside. That's it. I only wrote one name.
Let me see. Put that thing back. Like a mentalist, yo. Yo, we on with a real live mentalist, yo. Hey, that was pretty good, buddy.
I like the challenge. This is what I do.
How'd you do that? No. I do believe people like y'all exist out there. That's pretty cool. So what are you doing with this gift?
Because I got this talent, especially that I was doing illegal with my stuff first. With my talent, it wasn't always entertainment, right? I mean, if you can guess what somebody's thinking, then you know, it's only a credit card away, right? Yeah. So everybody loves telling me, like, you know what I would do if I had? I'm like, trust me. We're both humans, right? Everything that goes on in your mind goes on in my mind. I've thought about everything you're thinking about. And then, you know, and you touch the iron, you get hurt, you know, you get burnt because, you know, you realize that, you know, there's no perfect, you know, anything in this world. You know, you're gonna pay regardless. Kenya.
You are Messiah.
I believe in the men in black.
How did you do that?
Devonte Rosero, better known as Devonte Magic. I'm what you call a mentalist, mind reader. Originally from Bushwick in Brooklyn, New York. You know, and I've been doing this magic, mentalism, mind reading thing my whole life. Over 25 years practically at this point.
This is a video that I'm doing. It's a little unusual. You guys can obviously see this is a magician. So what we're talking about here is Devonte Magic, and he's someone that, you know, the reason why I really want to do the story is because he, you know, approached me. He said he was a fan of the videos, and then I started to learn more about him, and he showed up, you know, to where I was filming one day in New York, and I started to learn more about him and look into him. And he's someone that I think is a perfect example of someone that leveraged a unique skill to get them in the door, to get them into business opportunities. And I want everyone to take away from this story is that leverage your unique skills, your unique talents, and you can leverage them into almost any type of business, especially the ones that you're passionate about, like Devonte is with this plant. So, you know, big shouts out to Devonte. He definitely has got a gift. It's insane. But think about this, guys. Networking, you know, if you have a unique skill that no one's really doing, that's something that can get you in the door. I'm 26 years old and I'm able to talk to pretty much everyone in this industry within 3 years because of, you know, me leveraging this media, right? So leverage a unique skill to get yourself in the door.
I knew I wanted to do something like this ever since I was 9 years old. Around that age, I had seen my grandmother, who was a highly spiritual lady, have people come to the house, and I remember seeing her heal people, pray over people. It was the first time that I'd seen anybody do something amazing like that, something that I'd consider a miracle at that point. When I told my dad about this, when I told him that I had, you know, that I had interest in this kind of stuff, and at that point I had seen this magician in summer camp, it was the lowest hanging fruit for a 9-year-old to be able to get involved in something like this. And so as soon as he took me to a magic shop. At the magic shop, I was able to learn things like card tricks and coin tricks, and you know, kind of tricks that a 9-year-old would learn. You know, sponge ball tricks. And eventually it would be hanging out at these magic shops in Manhattan and being allowed into the back rooms with the older dudes who's sitting around at a table with playing cards and talking about, you know, sort of the old school theories and some of the secrets that aren't so readily available. That began like pretty much you know, my whole life in this, which was just started off with hanging out in these, you know, these small magic shops. It's not as linear as you might think. You know, I think that in many ways I always compare it to some sort of martial arts. I think Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is a great way. You know, you learn by learning the basics. So in mentalism, the basics would be considered human nature, you know, just any human habits, human, you know, fallacies that one creates in their own mind. Learning the basics of what I would say is just understanding how humans sort of react and act to things. Then the next step from there is really only gotten through experience. The same way that, again, I go back to martial arts, where it's a level of experience is needed. Running it many times with different kind of people, seeing how different people react to different things is part of the process. And with enough of that, with enough of running it through enough people and learning and picking that up and practicing that, that is, I would say, is the rise up of the mentalist. And I say that the people that I really respect have a lot of time in front of people, have dealt with all sorts of walks of life, young people, old people, black people, white people, Chinese people, rich people, people that are not paying attention, people that are paying attention, drunk people, not all of it. You need all that data. Always just a personal relationship in the sense that, you know, it was a way for me to take my mind off of things. Growing up, I knew that I had a gift, and I knew that I couldn't play with this gift. And though I did dumb street and mess around, I definitely saw, like, you know, getting high at a young age as like a thing, as a way that was gonna affect my ability to do what I was doing. You know what I mean? So I didn't wanna, you know what I mean? I was like, I don't, you know, all my friends smoke, but I was like, nah, I gotta stay, because I got this talent. Especially that I was doing illegal with my stuff first, with my talent. It wasn't always entertainment, right? I mean, if you can guess what somebody's thinking, then, you know, it's only a credit card away, right? Yeah. So everybody loves telling me, like, you know what I would do if I had? I'm like, trust me. We're both humans, right? Everything that goes on in your mind goes on in my mind. I've thought about everything you're thinking about. And then, you know, and you touch the iron, you get hurt, you know, you get burnt, because, you know, you realize that, you know, there's no perfect, you know, anything in this world. You know, you're gonna pay regardless. And so it wasn't until, like, I was building this business off my talent, and kind of feeling the stress of real life and real business, and realize, like, yo, I need a way to relax my mind. And so I would always smoke when I wasn't performing, when I wasn't doing anything. And man, I just felt better then than I did when I wasn't smoking. And so now it's become a way for me to really, in essence, calm my mind down. You know what I mean? I almost, like, utilize it as a way to focus, hyper focus, or you know, be hyper alert. And it's funny because I know a lot of people, when they think of that, at least some people's experience, like, yo, bro, I just get like, I'm out. And it's just like, I get that. But when you have a mind like mine that's running a billion times a second, you know, and it's trying to process a lot, you need that calmness, you know what I mean? And then my calm is what probably somebody playing chess is doing, which is just like lots of calculations. Like, that's me high. I think so. Maybe, I don't know.
I think, well, no, I think it's like you matured out.
You let the mind grow out of it. That's a fact too. You know, not always can affect you the exact same. So for sure, there's gonna be weeds that put you to sleep, that do this, for sure. And I almost feel like you're right. I think like back then, especially in New York, I feel like that's what, because we didn't have dispensaries, we still don't really have dispensaries, but because you don't have a lot of options. Back then, you were trying to sell, they're gonna slump people out, because that's what people wanted. You know, so whether that's you know, old sitting around that, you know, gets higher on the indica side, you know, I didn't want that effect, you know. So, but now I feel like I can really leverage the effect so that it helps me. I almost like those two things are different, but now that they've come together, it's amazing. Meaning the media and my involvement in the case, and even mentalism. They were almost all three different things. Meaning, when I built my mentalism, it was always off social media and it had nothing to do with this. It was all independent. It was all private events, people that basically, you know, had the money to hire a mentalist for a private party. You know, so anytime like Dell is having a, you know, or whatever, Apple is having a monthly thing, you know, they'll hire entertainment, you know, and they have good, decent budgets. And so that was my life pretty much all the way through after you know, I took this serious. Social media played a big part when I could no longer go out because of the pandemic. I had maybe only 4,000 followers at the time because I just needed to be known within the people I wanted to be known in. But then within the pandemic, I couldn't travel anywhere, so I had zero work. And that really shook me up because I was like, man, I have a talent, but I can't share this talent because I read minds in person. You know, part of like one of the things people know me for is like, look at me. You know, I have to be literally within feet of you and watching you and looking at you. It doesn't work if you're in the other room. So online, I figured out that on Instagram Live, I could go on Instagram Live and thank you. I could go on Instagram Live and take different people and read their minds as long as they, you know, just stay on the screen with me. And we developed ways to do that. And then we just went ham every night for 14 hours every night. I was just on Instagram, finding whoever was on Instagram, and if it was LL Cool J, I'd just stay in the comments all day, just saying, please give me a chance, add me. I swear to God, you'll never regret this. And we did it for days and weeks and months, and nobody ever said yes. And until LL was the first one. And then it sort of, I don't want to say it snowballed because it was difficult to get every single one of them. It was like pulling teeth because they don't know who you are and they don't know what, you know what I mean? And I was coming from obscurity. But what was clear to me was that I realized like, oh, the world has not really seen this, because to me, it was all about who I can get to hire me. But then for the first time, I was basically giving it away, right? Because not only was I performing for LL, but I was performing for the 2,000 people who were watching live. And so all of a sudden, people were flooding my Instagram and asking like, what is this? And I was like, oh, we've never really put this out into the world. And then we ran it up, you know, all the way to 200,000, you know, followers and going live every week and getting all sorts of celebrities from Fat Joe to the, you know, LA Lakers to all, you know, all these big known names. That would then transition into when the world was opening up again. You know, we definitely wanted to do something again. Now, back in 2016, 2017, I'm already a heavy smoker, and I'm now looking for just my own personal exploration of like what else, you know, is there, like what, you know. And Pizza Pusher, who's out here, my friend Chris was doing a delivery service of pizzas that were infused, which was to me just this incredible idea in a time where, you know, New York is super still like, you know, under lockdown in terms of we can't do anything. But he was doing these delivery services, and then he was hosting these parties, private parties in his house. This is before he ever had the restaurants. Like he had just inviting people in his backyard. But it was like this brownstone townhouse looking like mansion type of thing in Harlem, because in Harlem you don't have that much space, and he had a jacuzzi in the back. It was incredible, and it was an experience. Yeah, and I was like, all we need is just like something, and it was, you know, and I started bringing the mentalism and doing these private shows with celebrities, because he would just invite like a local celebrity, throw your own pizza party, and it was a pizza party / mentalism, and that was our first sort of, at least my first taste of like putting an experience together with, you know, everybody, you know, being high and getting even more high with the pizza. And then that would transition into, you know, Happy Monkey. When Happy Monkey opened up, you know, my friend Vlad and Ramon, they had, you know, the second spot that I felt, not only the second spot, let me say that clearly, pretty much the first spot that I knew of, that was, second spot in my mind, but the first spot that I knew that was like that was a spot that you can, you know, go and smoke and chill, and it was to that caliber, you know, couches and chandeliers, and
That's Happy Monkey, right?
that was Happy Monkey. They were the first people, and they had a vision so far ahead, because they, not only they have a vision what they were doing, but they like contacted somebody to contact me to get me involved in what they were doing. And I say that because, like, I would love to think that it was me, but I have to give them the credit, because it was them really that said, like, no, we really got to involve you in some, like, something special on a higher level that's just not random and so they actually put some money up for me to be there. And, like, you know, at the time I was already charging a significant amount, and I felt like, I don't know if they're gonna pay it. And they invested, man. They invested for the club, and they got me out there, and we did it. And ever since that, we've been friends. And ever since that, I've been looking for ways to create experiences, and that would develop into years of a relationship with Chris. Once Chris opened up all the restaurants from Stone Pizza, one of the ones he opened up was this last one here at the Supper Club, which had a proper stage. It had a proper show that he wanted to create, and so I did the opening day for him last year. And then from there, meeting Berner and meeting all the guys. That started with right after the opening of Stone Pizza. I had the show that I was running there. I was running a show there that while people ate the pizza, I would do this mentalism mind reading show where I'd do things like unlock people's phones. I was putting voices in people's minds. And the only place to see it was there. You have to show up there. And so Berner was in town doing his Mania documentary. And it was so crazy how that night, randomly, Styles P was in town. Tony Yayo from G Unit was in town. Nems, you know, wife was in town. A whole bunch of just like known names was in the room, and Berner showed up, and he had his whole crew with him, and so it was just a perfect, you know, harmonious night of like him just being in town. I was on stage. You had some really cool names in the room, and you know, the rest was history. After reading his mind, putting the voice inside of his mind.
Crazy, bro.
Yeah, if anybody that's ever watched the video with Berner that he did episode 9, I think, in New York City. Or whatever it is, the New York City episode. Yeah, about like halfway through, he goes to see the show, and that's when he first meets me.
You're gonna hear a voice in your head. Keep your eyes closed. As a matter of fact, close your ears as tight as possible. As tight as possible. Did you hear something? Oh no.
I heard something for sure.
What did it say?
It said the number 1 is the number I'm sending you from the die.
Stop. What?
Bro.
Is that the number on the? Number 1.
That's great. 1, 2.
Bro, fam, I'm gonna keep it real with you. I almost teared up. That is voice. It sounded like you were talking to me, bro. And I swear on my mother right here, bro, on my mother, on my daughter. I honestly believe in a higher power. I believe in the brain's way more capable than what we know. This guy's a genius. That shit the shit out of me. I'm hooked out. That voice was scary as shit, man. That was.
And he has to be responsible for sure for like definitely giving me this massive official stamp. You know what I mean? I mean, it was one thing to be known locally amongst my friends out here. It's another thing for Berner to say like, yo, the guy's legit. And he would eventually bring me on a quick tour with him with Wiz Khalifa, Logic, and a couple other amazing dudes. Ended up reading Logic's mind, ended up reading Wiz Khalifa's mind, read the whole crew's mind behind stage. Caught that on footage. That's like unreleased so far. I think Berner and I are working on like some of that with some things with that content. And then I just ran with him. I mean, he did the opening in New Jersey. I was there. He did an event out in LA. I was there. He did. Then he would do the low temp video, the music video, and he was like, "Man, you should be in the music video." I was in that music video where I met Kenny Powers and I met Fields from Skittles, and those two guys would become friends, and man, it's just been crazy. Like met Jigga, and who else, man? Then I would eventually go to Emerald Cup and meet Mario Sherbinsky, and he became a friend. And so every time he's in town, him and I link up. And so I think it's for sure like what you said. It's the fact that the mentalism opens up the doors. But I think that the entrepreneur in me, I think connects with a lot of these guys. I think, I've had to take something that, was secretive and take it to the world. And these guys are doing the exact same thing. Some on a much grander level, obviously. So Devonte, I am my own brand. Devonte Magic is the main brand. And we've expanded. We've expanded to have a show. We have a live show here in New York City, specifically here at Work and Roll. I'll tell you my story of like wanting to get into the space. Like after having smoked so much, after having sat down with some of the greatest, I felt like this was maybe like last year. I'm sitting down with Berner, and I'm sitting down with a couple other homies, and I'm like, man, I'd love to work on my own brand, on my own thing, and I understood that I was walking on eggshells because who doesn't want to bring, you know what I mean? Like I get it, you know what I mean? It's almost like saying you want to be a rapper in New York right now. It's just like, you too, huh? And you think you're gonna make it, huh? And you think you're gonna be different. It's like, I get it. But at least I wanted to ask the question, and I asked the question, and I knew for sure that at the minimum, I had the right people around me that they weren't gonna let me do it the wrong way, or at least I would trust them to push me in the right direction and not in the wrong direction. And they did, and they began to mentor me. And the first rule was, don't jump into it right away. Just take time and learn a little bit. And that's what I did. And the first thing I knew was that like I'd been smoking all my life at this point, and well, at least since 21. But I didn't really know what I would tell you that I knew what good. I knew it, but I didn't know. I didn't know. And I knew that I didn't know. And I was like, how do I know? The first thing is like, how do I recognize the people that know? Because a lot of people swear they know. But like, how do I know? Who knows? The first thing was go to guys like, first like really finding the seeds. So guys like Jigga, right? Guys like, you know what I mean? Like Kenny Powers, or guys that are either pheno hunting or hunting down seeds. And then I started from there and asking them the right questions. And I realized that not only was I not ready to start my own company, I didn't even, in my opinion, had the right, taste for even make the right choice. I just put myself on a mission on like a year, and anybody that has been around me in the last year can testify. Like, yo, D walks around. In this case, we might actually have some from Casada, which leads me to, before I even get there, because I think that's where it ends. Here I am learning, and I like saying this because I say after a year of, what I learned? I am not gonna pheno hunting or fuck, like, I realized how much of a process it was. I respected it, and I just realized like, oh, I have no business trying to like do any of that. And I think the greatest thing was I grew a level of respect for it. But even better, I realized how I could be part of it. So, okay, I'm not a guy that's gonna, and okay, I know you shouldn't, put your face on lemon cherry jelly. Like we know that, I understand. So what is the right way to do it? Well, somebody must be doing it the right way. And I learned quickly in this industry, probably like in any industry, there's nobody that's loved unanimously. Everybody is, you know what I mean?
2 or 3 people, but that's about it.
I will find, whoever you tell me, I will find people that will talk about them, honestly, right? It's like, you're right, okay, who else?
That's about it, actually.
Okay.
Like the only person I can think of.
Fair enough. I haven't heard anything bad about them. You're doing good, Preferred Gardens, and I have heard many good things only. But you get what I mean, right? I learned that, like, okay, that's hard because there isn't any one person that everybody just agrees. And even if there is that one person, like, am I gonna become a Preferred Garden? When I met Mario Sherbinsky, I think he taught me a lot of like history on it, and I feel like he's really ethical. I think, like, I think there's one guy that, at least the way I saw him move, he was moving pretty ethical and everything in intentional. But I realized, like, yeah, he has a passion and a drive for something that I don't. How do I do what I do? And my game is, I market, man. I get the information from one place to another. And marketing is not the same thing as just selling something, right? Or just being a salesman. Like, marketing is just, to me, getting a message out there. Or that's at least how I leverage my talent, right? I know that I have the ability to pierce through attention, right? Whether you're skeptical, whether you're bored, whether you jaded by, because I've seen I will pierce through that. That's my goal. That's what I do. That's what I live my life doing. So then I think to myself, like, eventually what I would love to do is get, some of this, like, somebody like Preferred Guard, some of like the best, and then take it to, like, let's say the larger part of the world, let's say. And by larger, I mean, like, I think the part that's coming, right? Because I think that there will be more people that smoke in the future than have, if that makes sense. I think there will be a larger percentage of people that we'll eventually say 40% of people smoke, but I do believe that. And I believe that those will all be new faces. And they will not have known, and they're not heady boys, and they're not, been in the game, and they're not whatever, you know what I mean? And they are gonna be the ones that are, because they don't know the difference between lemon cherry gelato, and they're idiots. And it was almost like I pierced through this, like, world of people that, like, know it all, to only bring it back and try to maybe break it down to the best of my ability to people that probably don't understand any of this shit, or probably will ever have the time to invest in it.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think that I'd like to be that, and then it sort of ends with me meeting Juan from BackPack Boyz, and
Listen to me. Not somebody you recently spoken to. A name so random of somebody you know, though. So random right now in your mind that if I was to guess this name, you would say there's no fucking way.
Yeah.
You have a name?
No.
Take a moment.
Yeah, I'm trying to
Get a name. Look at me. I might have spelled it wrong. This is one name when you thinking of. Say it.
Say it?
Say it.
It was like Jacques, is that how you said it?
Fuck you. No way. No way.
Bro, see, hey, that's what I'm saying, bro. I got the like, nah, is he really pulling that?
He's sick. I watched
No
that.
way. The craziest name ever. I was like,
He a bad man. He do that
that bag approved?
approved. He do that
I think, like, Juan was just like I see it like the Goldilocks story. It's like too hot, too cold, and just perfect. And, like, he was a guy that, like, understood, in my opinion, how to do it. Like, he knew, like, what was right, but he also understood, like, look, like, this is about getting to the world, right? Like, this is about the world for we, not just, like, the only people that can afford, like, and can only find, like, the secret to the world. And we got to bring shit that people want to smoke, and we got to put it in their hand, and we got to do it the right way. Anyway, I felt that he was the right guy, and we ran with it. And and after, like I said, a year of realizing that I didn't want to do that by myself, I did realize that I could partner with somebody that was doing it the right way. And once Juan and I got together, I was like, listen, I want to smoke what you've got. I want to find something that, amongst what you got. So not a did or not a did for me, but being that he's a curator, he finds things that's indoor and well grown, and then that's how we came together, and we were able to put some what I believe to be fire in some bags, and that has a cool twist to it, which is mine. That's my bag. So that's the BackPack Boyz collab with the Mentalist. Mine.
He's a great dude, by the way.
Yes.
Super solid.
Very authentic, genuine, real dude for sure. He's in town.
Yeah.
I'm about to link with him now. Yeah.
So I think this is a really interesting story overall because it's someone that used magic, potentially literal magic, who knows, to pierce his way through, to gain information and to gain connections to network. Why did I start doing this YouTube channel? Well, the first reason really was to help, educate the traditional market, help people come, be able to be educated so that they can succeed in this really competitive market. But the thing I did for me personally, right, is I wanted to do this because it's great for networking. I get to meet a ton of different people. I get to interview a ton of the best in the world, and I also get to learn. So think about this when you're building your business. Think about gaining knowledge. Think about network building, and sitting back before you maybe jump in and launch your brand. And I think Devonte is a really, really good example of this. So after working on this pretty much the entire night, I came across this amazing documentary, by the way, that was done on Devonte when he was in high school, like a young kid, and his whole journey through becoming a magician and everything that that involves. And it's an amazing documentary, by the way. Like David Blaine's in it, and go watch it. Right? It's called Misdirection: The Real Magic. You can get it on Amazon. Highly recommend you guys go watch that because it'll tell the full story of Devonte, really. But I do think in a lot of ways, right, Devonte is someone I think that realizes the power of the effect that his gift and his ability to bring eyeballs to another gift, and the gift of this plant. Devonte, he seems like someone, especially after watching that documentary, someone that's really been through the ringer, someone that really, I think, has a lot to contribute to the culture and the industry. And yeah, well, people may say, yeah, he's just, he's a magician, or, he's not, nothing to do with, he's not from this world of this plant. Trust me, everyone can play the role and everyone can help. It's a lot of different components to this overall movement, but one component to it, which is important to get the masses, on board, it's storytelling, right? And I tell stories through YouTube videos. I never thought I would, but I am. But everyone can tell their story or other people's stories in all different types of ways, all different types of manners.
I was like, look, I want to do something more. I don't know what it is, but I want to do something more. At the time, I had taken already, I had already gotten over the tricks part of magic. I wanted to do more with the trick. Can you do more? I mean, okay, wow, cool. What else can you do with this? So at the time, I knew that I could tell maybe stories. Maybe I could tell a story. Maybe I could tell something that actually says, what I'm saying will mean. So instead of saying, look, water disappears, maybe the water has maybe it has a symbol. And I began to tell my personal story. And we can get into that later of just my own problems and stuff as a kid. And I said, I'm going to teach these kids how to tell their story with this magic trick. And that's what I did. And for years, I would go on to not just teach these kids how to tell stories with their magic that Tom would teach them, but I realized the impact that it had on them, the effect that it had on them. It had a really cathartic effect of being able to be a kid who can do magic, tell your story, tell a story, have an influence on a person, by saying the story. And the magic was just a means to an end. And where it could have or would have just ended as okay, cool, that was cute, that was nice. There was a kid named Zumbita. And Zumbita had a very simple magic trick when I met him. He was already doing it. Everybody knows it if you ever bought a magic trick or a magic case. It's the one that always comes in a magic case. It's a little vase. It has a little red ball, and you take off the vase and you take the little red ball out of the vase. You can put it in your pocket, and if you cap the vase again, the ball will always appear back, right? That's the trick, and it's for a 5-year-old for the most part. This kid would eventually tell a story that's has impacted the world at this point. It went on to be in a movie and stuff. And so he tells a story of one day waking up and he sees this kid crying on the street, and he asks him, why are you crying? And the kid says, the worst thing has happened to me. You wouldn't believe it. And Zubita tells the kid, look, you have to think a little bit more positive. These North Americans, look what they gave me, this little vase. And he puts out the little vase. This is his performance. He's now performing this in front of people. He says, these Americans, he's telling the story of this kid he meets. These Americans gave me this vase and they told me this story. You have to have love. See this little red ball? That's the love you have to have. And the kid grabbed my hand and he says, you don't understand. I've lost it all. I don't have any love. And he opens his hand and there's nothing there. And I didn't understand. So I just left it there and I spoke to him and I said, tell me what happened. And he says, my mom, she committed suicide. And he says, look, I know it's really tough. I know you can't see through it, but if you can believe, if you can have that magic in your heart, maybe you can find it again. And then he uncaps it and it's back. And then he closes it up and people are clapping. And then he says, the reason I know this story is because I was a little kid. See, you might think it's just a magic trick. But I know what it is. And there was a sense of where I was taking him with it. It was a sense of connection of the audience. And the magic was bringing their guard down. See, they thought they were watching a magic trick. They didn't think they were connecting with a kid. And as they connected with him, he connects with them. And what does that have to do with mentalism? I was on the search for something when I was 21. I wasn't a mentalist yet. It's not what I was saying. I was saying that that's when it changed. That's when I understood. You asked me, why do I do this? That's why I do this. To connect with people, to leave them different than I met them. And I have a variety set of skills to do that. Because they don't know the difference between lemon cherry gelato, and they're idiots. And it was almost like I pierced through this like world of people that like know it all to only bring it back and try to maybe break it down to the best of my ability to people that probably don't understand any of this shit.